In this video, we'll take a look at animating in 3ds Max using the AutoKey command. Now, irrespective of the specific method of keyframing you choose to use, there's going to be two specific things that have to occur in order for any animation to be created. Number one, time has to elapse. That little slider along the timeline, in other words, has to change location. You can move in time, either forward or back, but in order for change to take place, you'll have to be at a different location or place in time when your new information, whatever attempting to change, is stored up. A traffic light, for an example, can't be both green and red simultaneously, nor can a car door be both opened and closed at the same moment. So bottom line, to initiate change, the clock's got to roll. The second thing that must occur is that the changes you plan on making need to be recorded, remembered in other words. That's where those keyframes that we discussed in a previous video come into play. So change where you are along the timeline, and remember to store, or key in other words, the changes that you're wanting to put into place. Okay, with those two important points established, let's go see what we can do. Let's create a sphere in the upper left-hand corner of our viewport. Okay, our goal will be to have the sphere move to the bottom middle of our view over 50 frames. In other words, in just short of 2 seconds. Now, in order for that to happen, we've got two things that we'll have to do. We'll need to move our slider along the timeline, and we'll also need to inform Max that it's time to start remembering what's happening on the screen. That's what we'll use the AutoKey button for. Now, which one of those two do you do first? Move in time or activate the AutoKey? Well, when using the AutoKey method of animating, it makes no difference. The only thing that you got to remember is that both need to be done before you start moving things around. Let's head on down below the right-hand side of our timeline and we'll activate the AutoKey command. You could also simply use the shortcut key, the letter N. Once the command's been activated, notice both the red border around the viewport and the red bar above the timeline. That red color should indicate danger. Whether or not you want it, you're now ready to do something that Max is planning on storing and remembering. The software provides the red markings simply as a way to give you a heads up that it's ready to kick its memory into full gear. Let's now grab the time slider, moving it to frame 50 on the timeline. We'll now activate the move command and move the sphere to the bottom middle of the view. Take note of the little red squares now sitting on the timeline. Those are your keyframes. And notice there's not just one at the 50th frame, but also a key back at frame 0. That's the way that AutoKey does business. It stores not just the information that was asked for at frame 50, the current position of the sphere, but also automatically created a Start From Here key back at frame 0. Now that's an important feature of AutoKey. It automatically creates that starting key along the timeline. Let's go ahead and grab the slider and scrub between the two keys. Scrubbing further in time, note that nothing happens after frame 50. Why? Well, this ought to make sense. We haven't keyed anything past the 50th frame. So let's do this. With AutoKey still in place, we'll move to frame 100, then take the ball to the upper right-hand corner. Now once you've done that, notice a new key has been created at that 100th frame. Let's now scrub the timeline back and forth and see the action in the view. If we now played things back, we could see what we've animated. If you'd like to use the / key as a quicker way to activate that playback, certainly feel free to do so. If you're wanting a visual cue as to where the ball has come from and where it's going, you can activate what they call its trajectory. With your mouse on the ball, right-click going to Object Properties. Down in the lower left-hand side, in the Display Properties category, activate Trajectory. Once you do that, you can go ahead and say OK at the bottom of the box. With the trajectory now visible on the screen, you can see the exact locations the ball travels. As a side note, you could have also just used the Alt right-click shortcut to access the command through a menu. With the options visible, down on the right-hand side, you'd choose Show Trajectories Toggle. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. We can now continue animating the location of the ball. Why don't we move in between the first two keys that we set, changing the location of the ball. Now with AutoKey on, this creates a new keyframe, forcing Max to now remember this new position. Let's go a little further back in time, maybe around 70, and move the ball again. Each time we do so, creating a new keyframe as a result. Now, if we were to turn the AutoKey command off and move the ball, we'd be no longer recording the changes. And in that, we would no longer be animating the sphere's position. With the keyframing command off, we'd be simply moving the sphere as to where it is in the scene, taking whatever we've animated along for the ride. Let's try that. We'll turn auto key off, then move the sphere. Turning it back on again, we're now back to recording the changes that we're making. And it doesn't matter what we want to animate. The process is pretty much the same each time out. You'll simply move in time, verify that the keyframe button is on, and go about your business. Let's see if we can't scale our object. I'll return to my first frame, tapping the Home key on the keyboard. Let's now activate the Scale command and scale the sphere in one direction. So this basically creates our starting look. We'll now move further in time, scaling the sphere again. Let's do that in a couple of different places. Now once we've done that, let's go ahead and scrub from one side of the timeline to the other. We could also easily keyframe the rotation of the sphere. Let's head to a frame where the sphere is a little bit more down toward the bottom of the screen. I'll rotate the sphere about 180 degrees. I'll then move a little farther in time, giving the sphere a full spin around. Let's convert our view to shade mode by typing F3, and we'll play things back. Let's do a little more using AutoKey in a different file. Here's one called Using AutoKey. You can find it in the Working Files folder. The scene simply consists of a sphere, a tube, and a box. We'll animate each in a different way and over a different length of time. Let's first activate our AutoKey command. You could again use the shortcut command, the letter N, if you'd like to do so. Let's now select our box, moving to frame 40. Activating the Scale command will now scale the box a little thinner in the red or X direction. After that, we'll move to frame 80, scaling it this time in blue. With those keyframes now in place, let's go ahead and scrub along our timeline. On the tube, let's do this. We'll select the object, heading back to frame 20. Over in the Modify column, we'll then adjust its radius 1 so the hole is smaller. Let's now go to frame 60 and we'll change the height so the tube gets shorter. After doing so, take note of the red brackets that you see around the height spinner. Anytime you see a red bracket, it indicates that that parameter has been keyframed at that particular frame. Let's scrub our timeline again. The tube changes while the box continues to scale. Let's now select the sphere, then head to frame 50. In the Modify column, with the Slice On option activated, we'll change the Slice To value to 180. Again, take note of the red bracket around that specific spinner. Let's now go to frame 100 and we'll take the Slice To value to 270. While at the 100th frame, we'll also take the hemisphere about halfway up. That'll take the value to somewhere around 0.5. As with the Slice To setting, you'll also see red brackets around the hemisphere spinner. Let's go ahead and scrub our timeline again. If we deselect the sphere, notice that we no longer see any keyframes along the timeline. The reason being is the keys will only be visible for the object that you have selected. Here's the keyframes for the box, the keys for the tube, and the multiple keys that we set on the sphere. Let's go ahead again, play back our animation. Now, check out the timing of the various things that are happening. When there's fewer frames in between two neighboring keys, whatever is changing is happening quickly. You can see that with the green tube, as its radius 1 value is changed over 20 frames. The ball, having its bottom cut off using the hemisphere option, is taking much longer. That being again because of the spacing of its keys. Remember, that was changed over a full 100 frames. So that'll give you a few examples of using the AutoKey. It's fast, it's simple, and it's a great way to go in most situations when working on a project. I'm going to go ahead and save this out as Using AutoKey Completed if you'd like to go in for a look.